The moment my son looked me in the eye across the dinner table and said, "Dad, you slow everything down. Maybe it's time you found somewhere else to be. I want you to understand something. That wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that he meant it." I'm Harold Greer, 67 years old, retired civil engineer, spent 38 years designing water systems across Ohio. My wife Lenora passed 3 years ago, and after the funeral, my son Neil and his wife Sylvia said I should move in with them. "Don't be alone," they said. "We want you close." So I moved in, and for a while I told myself it was fine. By the end of year 1, I was doing most of the cooking, driving my granddaughter Iris to school when she missed the bus, which was often, fixing things around the house, keeping the utilities paid through accounts I'd set up. I didn't mind any of it. I was useful. After losing Lenora, useful felt like enough, but somewhere along the way, the arrangement shifted. What started as family became something else. Sylvia started making comments at dinner, small ones at first. "The chicken's dry. You left the garage light on again. You know, Harold, most people your age start thinking about a different kind of living situation." Neil never said anything when she talked like that. He'd look at his plate or check his phone. I kept waiting for him to say something. He never did. That night, the last night, I'd made dinner like usual. Iris was at the table, quiet the way she always got when the air in the room felt wrong. Sylvia came in from the living room and sat down without looking at what I'd cooked. Neil came in, loosened his tie, sat next to her. That's when he said it. "Dad, you slow everything down. Maybe it's time you found somewhere else to be." Sylvia didn't say a word. She didn't have to. She just looked at me with this flat, patient expression, like she'd been waiting a long time for that sentence to finally get said out loud. I sat there for a moment. I looked at my son. I waited to see if anything else was coming. It wasn't, so I reached into my pocket, put the house key on the table next to my plate, and stood up. "All right," I said. Iris started to say something. I caught her eye and shook my head slightly. "Not now." I walked to the front door. Behind me, I heard Sylvia say something about not being dramatic. I didn't stop. I stepped outside into the cool evening and I drove away without any idea where I was going. I ended up at the old house. The one Lenora and I built together, the one we'd lived in for 32 years before I moved in with Neil. I still owned it, still had the key. I'd been renting it out, but the tenants had moved on a few months back and I hadn't gotten around to finding new ones. I pulled into the driveway and sat in the car for a while. The lawn needed work. The shutters could use paint, but the structure was solid, same as always. I went inside, sat down in Lenora's old reading chair by the front window, and stayed there until morning. By 7 a.m., Neil had already called 4 times. I didn't answer. I made coffee and watched the yard get light. By noon, it was 11 calls. Sylvia had called twice, which surprised me more than Neil's calls. She'd never had much use for me before. I found out later from Iris what had happened that morning. Sylvia had gone into the home office to pull out the property documents. She wanted to get a clear picture of the assets, she told Neil. Start organizing things now that Harold was gone. What she found stopped her cold. The house was in my name, only my name. Mortgage paid off 14 years ago, nothing outstanding. No co-owner, no joint title, nothing with Neil's name on it anywhere. Both cars registered to me. The household account they used for groceries, utilities, incidentals, a secondary account I'd set up when I moved in. Balance of about $2,800. The real accounts, the savings and investments Lenora and I had built across 4 decades, were in my name only and completely out of their reach. And then there was the trust document. Lenora had worked with an attorney to set up a living trust 2 years before she died. Sylvia found the summary page buried in a folder. The relevant language was plain enough. Neil Greer and spouse are permitted to reside at the property as guests, not tenants. This privilege may be revoked at any time by Harold Greer with 30 days written notice. Lenora had written that, "My wife, who brought cookies to neighbors and organized the church rummage sale every spring, had spent part of the last years of her life making sure I'd be protected. She'd seen something I hadn't let myself see, and she'd built a wall around me without ever saying a word about it. I didn't know any of this yet. I was still sitting in the old house drinking bad coffee, wondering what came next. What came next was the woodworking shed. The shed was out back, half hidden behind the old oak tree Lenora refused to let me cut down even when it dropped branches on the roof every winter. I hadn't been inside since before she got sick. The padlock was stiff and took a few tries before it opened. When the door swung in, the smell hit me first. Sawdust and machine oil and something underneath it, all that I can only describe as her. She used to sit on a stool in the corner and read out loud while I worked. Said the sound of sanding helped her think. I used to tease her about it. I'd give anything to hear her read out loud right now. Everything was where I'd left it. Tools on the pegboard, organized by size the way she'd rearranged them one Saturday afternoon because she said the old arrangement gave her anxiety. The birdhouse I'd been building for the backyard still clamped to the bench waiting on me. I went to the back wall, crouched down, and felt along the base of the workbench, the way her letter had told me to. Her letter, I need to back up. That first morning in the old house, I'd gone into the bedroom closet and found the fireproof safe we'd bought 20 years ago. The combination was the same one it had always been. Our anniversary, her birthday, the year Neil was born. Inside was her journal, a sealed envelope addressed to me, and a handwritten note on top that said, "Open the journal first." So Lenora started keeping it about 5 years before she passed, a year or two before the diagnosis. The early pages were ordinary. Grocery lists mixed in with observations about the neighbors, notes about books she was reading, but somewhere around page 40, the tone changed. She wrote about Sylvia. Not in an angry way, just careful, observational. The way Sylvia had asked questions about their finances early in the relationship with Neil, specific questions framed as casual curiosity. The way Sylvia would say things like, "You two should really think about getting your affairs in order," to a couple in their early 60s who were perfectly healthy at the time. The way she studied the house during her first few visits, moving through rooms like she was taking inventory. Lenora wrote, "I smiled at everything and said nothing. But I started keeping notes." Then she wrote that she'd hired a private investigator. I had to put the journal down when I got to that part. Lenora. My wife who left thank you notes for the mail carrier. She had hired someone to dig into our daughter-in-law's past. What came back changed everything. Sylvia's name before she married Neil was Sylvia Pruitt. 7 years ago in Arizona, she had befriended a retired professor named Lloyd Decker. He was 79, a widower, no children. She'd started volunteering at the same community center he attended. Within 18 months, she was his primary caregiver. Within 2 years, she was the sole beneficiary of his estate. Lloyd died 6 months after that. His distant relatives filed suit. Undue influence, elder financial exploitation. The case was dismissed because they couldn't produce enough hard evidence. Sylvia collected the inheritance, left Arizona, and eventually surfaced in Ohio. 2 years later, she met Neil at a networking event. Lenora wrote, "She did not fall in love with my son. She found him, the same way she found Lloyd Decker. We are the next target, and she has been playing this a long time." I sat in that reading chair for a long time after I got to that page. The sealed envelope turned out to be a letter from Lenora's attorney, a woman named Patrice Holloway, elder law specialist, who Lenora had apparently been working with in secret for the last 2 years of her life. The note said Patrice was expecting my call. She'd been waiting up to 3 years if necessary. I called her that same afternoon. "Harold," she said, before I got past my name. "Lenora told me you'd take a while. She said you were the patient type and that I should just wait." Patrice had everything. The PI's full report on Sylvia, the Arizona probate case documents, the trust structure Lenora had set up, and one more thing she mentioned near the end of that first call. Lenora had also printed out an email thread she'd found by accident in a shared cloud account she and Sylvia had briefly used for household scheduling. The emails were between Sylvia and her mother, Nadine Pruitt. No warmth, no family small talk. References to timelines, to patience, to what happens once the old man is no longer in the picture. They read like project updates, because to Sylvia, that's exactly what they were. I asked Patrice what to do next. She said, "Right now, nothing. We wait. We let her make her next move." People like Sylvia always do. Back in the shed, my fingers found the groove at the base of the workbench. A small panel slid aside, and there was the second fireproof box, the one Lenora had mentioned near the end of her journal. Inside, a printed copy of those emails, some additional PI documentation, and a short handwritten note. It said, "I hope you didn't need this, but I knew you might. I love you. Now go call Patrice." I sat on the floor of that shed for a while, just sat there. Then I went inside and called Patrice back to tell her I had the second box. "Good," she said, "because your granddaughter called me this morning." Iris was 17. Quiet kid, observant in a way that used to remind me so much of Lenora. It sometimes caught me off guard. She had the same habit of sitting very still in a room and taking everything in without appearing to pay attention to anything at all. Lenora had told her about Patrice, sat down with her granddaughter, maybe when Iris was 14 or 15, and explained that if things ever went sideways, there was a number she should call. Iris had written it in the back of a notebook and kept it. 2 days after I left, she used it. She called Patrice from the school parking lot during lunch, told her what she'd been watching for the past year. The late-night phone calls Sylvia made after Neil fell asleep, voice low, walking the kitchen in the dark. The way Sylvia talked about me when I wasn't in the room, the particular tone she used, like I was already gone and she was just describing a situation that needed managing. The comments Neil had started making in the last few months, using the same phrases Sylvia used like he'd been practicing them. And then Iris told Patrice about the recording. The night I walked out, Iris had been upstairs when she heard Sylvia go to the kitchen and get on the phone. She came to the top of the stairs and stood in the dark and listened. When she realized what she was hearing, she opened her phone and let it record. Ohio is a one-party consent state. Iris was present. The recording was legal. Sylvia's voice on that recording, clear as anything. Grandpa's the last obstacle. Once he's out, Neil handles the accounts. Patrice told me about the recording during our second call that afternoon. She said Iris had already sent her the audio file. Your wife told that girl everything she needed to know, Patrice said. She planned for this down to the details. I met Iris 2 days later at a diner about 20 miles outside of town. She came in looking older than 17, the way kids look when they've been carrying something heavy for too long. She sat across from me and wrapped her hands around a glass of water and didn't say anything for a moment. Then she said, I've known something was wrong for a long time. I just didn't know what to do about it. I told her she'd done exactly right. She also told me about the hangzome, an older man named Ed who lived 2 streets over from the old house. Someone I'd known for years. She'd overheard a conversation between Neil and a neighbor a few months back. Neil had been telling people I was getting confused, forgetting things, not really managing well on my own. Neil had been building a story in advance, making sure that if I ever raised a complaint or tried to make a legal move, there'd be people already primed to question whether I had my faculties. That stung worse than the money, worse than the dinner table. Your own son quietly working to undermine your credibility before you even knew there was a fight coming. Iris moved in with me at the old house the following week. She packed a bag, left a note on her bed that said, I'm staying with Grandpa. Don't come looking for me. Then she texted me from the end of the street, and I drove over and picked her up. Neil called me that night. I let it go to voicemail. Sylvia called the next morning. Then she apparently spent the rest of that day trying to find a lawyer who would take her case. Patrice told me about this part later, with some satisfaction in her voice. Sylvia had called 3 firms. The first declined after a short consultation, citing conflicts of interest without explaining further. The second was more direct. Without evidence of actual wrongdoing by Harold, any lawsuit would be considered frivolous and could expose her to countersuits. Sylvia left that office in a rage, according to the paralegal who mentioned it to someone who mentioned it to Patrice. The third name on Sylvia's list was Patrice Holloway, elder law attorney. Sylvia had found the name through an online directory. She hadn't connected it to the eviction notice I'd had Patrice send to the house, because she'd barely read the eviction notice. She'd seen 30 days and started screaming. The attorney's name at the bottom hadn't registered. So she drove to Patrice's office on a Tuesday morning, rehearsing her story the whole way. The concerned daughter-in-law, the unstable father-in-law, the family being torn apart by an old man who couldn't accept that times had changed. Patrice's assistant showed her to the waiting room. Sylvia sat there for 15 minutes going over her talking points. When the inner office door opened and she walked in, Patrice was already seated behind her desk. She looked at Sylvia the way you look at someone when you know exactly who they are and exactly what they've come to say. Sylvia didn't recognize her. She launched into her prepared speech before she'd even settled into the chair. Patrice let her finish. Then she reached into her desk drawer, pulled out a photograph, and placed it face up on the desk between them. The photo showed a younger Sylvia standing on a sunny patio next to an elderly man in a cardigan sweater. She was smiling, arm-length through his. The man was Lloyd Decker. The photo had been taken about 6 months before he died. Sylvia went very still. Arizona has excellent public records, Patrice said, and the Decker family's attorneys were thorough, even if the case didn't hold up in court. She leaned forward slightly. Your past has a way of finding you, Sylvia, and this time there's no moving to a new state. 3 days after Sylvia's visit to Patrice's office, Neil showed up at the old house. I heard his truck in the driveway around 7 in the evening. Iris was at the kitchen table doing homework. She looked up when she heard the engine. You want me to stay? She asked. Give us a little while, I said. She took her books upstairs. I opened the front door before Neil could knock. He looked rough. Unshaven, eyes tired, wearing a work shirt that looked like he'd slept in it. He stood on the porch for a moment without saying anything, looking past me into the house he'd grown up in. Can I come in? He said. I stepped aside. He walked through slowly, the way you walk through a place you haven't been in a long time. He stopped at the mantel where Lenora's photos were. Stood there looking at them. A picture of the 3 of us from maybe 20 years ago, a summer trip up to the lake. Neil holding up a fish he'd caught, grinning like it was the greatest thing that had ever happened to him. Lenora laughing next to him, me with my hand on his shoulder. I forgot how much this place feels like her, he said. I didn't say anything. He sat down on the couch eventually, elbows on his knees, hands folded. I sat across from him. He told me Sylvia had come home from an attorney's office 2 days ago and she was different, scared in a way he hadn't seen before. She wouldn't tell him what had happened, just said they needed to leave Ohio, start over somewhere else, cut their losses. When he pushed back and said he wasn't going anywhere until he understood what was going on, she screamed at him for an hour, called him weak, said he was just like his father, too naive to see what was right in front of him. That's when I started thinking, Neil said. Maybe she was right that I wasn't seeing things clearly, but not in the way she meant. I went to the side table and took out Lenora's journal. I set it on the cushion next to him. Your mother kept this, I said. Read from the bookmark. He picked it up. I watched his face while he read. It took about 10 minutes. He read slowly, going back over certain parts. When he got to the section about Lloyd Decker, about what Sylvia had done in Arizona before she ever met him, he stopped, set the journal down on his knee, stared at the wall. She researched us, he said. Before she even talked to me, that's what your mother believed. He picked the journal back up and kept reading. When he finished, he set it on the coffee table and sat back and didn't say anything for a long time. Then I told him about the bank form. About 6 months before I left, Neil had brought me a document for a household expense account authorization, routine paperwork, he said. I'd signed it without reading closely. What Patrice had since confirmed was that the authorization amount had been altered after I signed. $8,000 moved out of an account I rarely monitored. Lenora had set up balance alerts on everything before she died. The notification email had been sitting in her old account, the one I still had access to for months. I'd printed it. It was in the folder with everything else. Neil went very still when I told him that. I didn't know she'd changed the amount, he said. I know, I said. But you brought me the form. He put his face in his hands. We sat there for a while. I could hear Iris moving around upstairs. What do I do? He said finally. There's a meeting at Patrice Holloway's office in 4 days, I said. You should be there. But I need to know you're coming as my son, not as Sylvia's husband. He looked up, his eyes were red. I'll be there, he said. The meeting was on a Thursday morning. Neil arrived first and sat on my side of the table without being asked. Iris sat next to me. Patrice was at the head of the table with 2 folders in front of her. Sylvia came in 20 minutes late with an attorney she'd hired 2 days earlier, a young guy in a good suit who had no idea what he was walking into. Patrice laid it out piece by piece, the PI report, the Arizona case, Lloyd Decker, Lenora's journal entries, the email thread between Sylvia and Nadine Pruitt, Iris's recording, and last, the bank authorization form with the altered amount alongside the alert email from Lenora's account showing the $8,000 transfer. Sylvia's attorney got through about 2/3 of it before he closed the folder, took off his glasses, and stood up. He said he was sorry, but he couldn't represent this case, said the evidence was such that continuing would compromise his professional obligations. He picked up his briefcase and walked out without looking at Sylvia. She sat alone on her side of the table now. She tried, went through the familiar moves. Called the journal fabricated, said the recording was taken out of context, said Lenora had never trusted her and had poisoned everyone against her from the beginning. Her voice stayed controlled at first, then started rising when no one in the room reacted the way she needed them to. Neil was looking at the table. Iris was looking at her hands. I was looking at Sylvia. When she finally stopped, the room was quiet. I slid 2 documents across the table. The first document was for Sylvia, full relinquishment of any claim to the Greer family property, accounts, or estate. No negotiation, no partial agreements. Sign it and leave quietly, or I release the full file to the county prosecutor and every news outlet in the area. The second document was for Neil, acknowledgement of the unauthorized account transaction, a repayment agreement for $8,000, and a statement that I was at this time choosing not to pursue criminal charges, contingent on his full cooperation going forward. Sylvia looked at the documents. She looked at Neil. He didn't look back. She picked up the pen. She signed without a word. Each page, the property waiver, the asset relinquishment, the agreement that she would make no further contact with any member of the Greer family. When she set the pen down, she looked like something had gone out of her, not remorse, more like a machine that had finally run out of road. She stood up, picked up her bag, and walked out. The door closed behind her, and that was the last any of us saw of her. Neil signed his document slowly. When he finished, he sat there with his hands flat on the table. "I'm sorry, Dad," he said. "I know that doesn't fix anything." "No," I said, "it doesn't, but it's a start." In the weeks that followed, Sylvia's life came apart in the way these things do when the structure holding them up finally gives way. Her employer found out about the Arizona case through channels I didn't fully track. She was let go quietly. Her professional contacts stopped returning calls. The social circle she'd spent years building, the dinner parties and charity events, and carefully maintained friendships, dried up fast once word got around. Last I heard from Iris, Sylvia was renting a small apartment on the other side of town and working part-time at a call center. Iris visited her once, a few months after everything settled. She came back quiet. When I asked how it went, she thought for a moment and said, "She seemed smaller. I've thought about that word a lot, smaller." Sylvia had always filled a room, loud presence, always in motion, always working an angle. Stripped of the plan and the safety net, and the family she'd tried to take over, she'd shrunk down to whatever she actually was underneath all of it. I didn't feel good about that. I didn't feel bad about it either. Mostly I felt tired in the way you feel after a long job is finally done. Neil paid back the $8,000 in 2 installments. He started coming around on Sunday afternoons, at first just sitting on the back porch without saying much, then helping with things, then staying for dinner. The conversations were careful at first, full of pauses, both of us working around the weight of what had happened. But slowly, over months, it got easier. He's not the same person he was before all this. Neither am I, but he's showing up. That counts. Iris started college in the fall, architecture. When she told me her major, I laughed out loud. The first real laugh I'd had in a while. Lenora's education fund covered tuition and housing, $120,000 she had quietly saved over 5 years in an account. None of us knew existed, building it while she was sick, while she was writing that journal, while she was putting every protection in place she could think of. I think about that image a lot. Lenora sitting somewhere, not feeling well, writing a check into an account for a granddaughter's future she wasn't sure she'd see, doing it anyway. Some evenings I'm out in the woodworking shed and Iris is on the stool in the corner the way Lenora used to be, except instead of reading out loud, she's sketching building plans for class and asking me questions about load-bearing structures. The other week she looked up from her notebook and said, "Grandma really planned all of this, didn't she?" It wasn't really a question. She saw things clearly, I said. I was too busy hoping for the best to see what she saw. Iris nodded and went back to her sketching. 1 year out from that dinner table, I'm still in the old house. The lawn is in good shape. I repainted the shutters. The birdhouse I never finished is hanging out back now, and a pair of cardinals have been using it since spring. I didn't go looking for a fight. I didn't plan any of this. Lenora planned it. I just had to be willing to pick up what she left for me and use it. They thought I was just an old man running out the clock. They never thought to ask what I'd built, what I owned, or what my wife had quietly arranged while they were busy waiting for me to disappear. By the time they figured it out, there was nothing left for them to take. If any part of this story felt familiar to you, I'd like to hear about it. A lot of men in this situation stay quiet because they think no one will believe them, or because they're ashamed, or because they still love the people who are taking advantage of them. That's not weakness. That's just being human. But you don't have to stay quiet, and you don't have to fight loud either. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop letting the wrong people have access to what you've spent a lifetime building. If this reached you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. You might not know who that person is until they tell you later.